Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be talking you through London Org and showing you a bit of what goes on inside. In London there are three buildings. So there's the London Main Ideal Org, which is where I was primarily based, which is this one here, which is on 146 Queen Victoria Street, which is near Blackfriars Station. The other building is Tottenham Court Road, which we talked about a little bit in yesterday's video and on Aaron Smith-Levin's channel, Growing Up in Scientology. There's also the building Fitzroy House, which I will talk about in another separate YouTube video, but that's not really a public building. It's not where services are delivered. It's just more of a shrine to L. Ron Hubbard because he used to live and work there. So let's have a little look at what goes on in London Org. This is the reception, which I've shown previously. If you were to walk in on any given day, this is what you would see. The entrance is here on the right hand side. You'd walk in, the receptionist would be sat here and they would say, hello, who are you? What do you want? Now, on the right-hand side, just over here, is where the lifts are that go up to each level. So if you are a student and you're studying a student Scientology, that is, and you're just here to go straight up on course, you would either go straight up these stairs to the second floor, which is where, or third floor, which is where the course room is, or if you're in the academy doing sort of higher or more advanced levels, you'd go straight to the lifts and you'd head straight up to the top floor to do that after signing in the little book. However, if you're a brand new person, you don't know what you're doing, the receptionist would grab you before you go anywhere and try to figure out who you are and what you want. Down here on the left is, you can't really see very well, but there are some small steps that go down, maybe 5 or 6 steps. On the left hand side is a little corridor that takes you through to the chapel and the cafe, and also the Division 6C area, which is where the FSMs are supposed to gather and where all of the things like CCHR and Truth About Drugs and all the IES type stuff is meant to go on. There's an office there. That's where we had our staff musters as well every day. And on the right hand side, so sort of directly behind this wall here, is the executive office where the 2 SEAL members had their flag, the flag rep office, and the executive director had her office. And that's where the staff notice board would be, and also a little hidden door that takes you down a stupid number of steps to this huge basement where we kept all of our book selling stuff. So I was one of the few people that was actually allowed to go into the executive director's office on a regular basis, because even though I wasn't supposed to be in there because of my post, I had to go in there to go and get all the chairs and the stock and everything that we use for book selling every week. Anyway, this is the Public Information Centre. So if you head up these stairs here on the left and take an immediate left here before you get to this corner here, this is the Public Information Centre. So if you were to walk in to the church and you'd never been before, you would be guided up to this area where they would put you down in front of most likely this television right here on the right hand side, which is the first kind of introduction to what Scientology is all about. Now, all they do is they play 2, 3, 4 minute videos telling you about what Scientology is, how great it is, and supposedly that's meant to answer all of your questions for you. Pretty much all of these videos are available for free on the Scientology YouTube channel, so if you, like most people would at this point, have already seen those videos and you were to walk into a Scientology church and say, I want to find out more, and they would tell you to watch this video, you've probably already seen it, so it doesn't really actually give you any benefit other than wasting your time. This is a closer look at those screens. So you would sit down and someone would sort of sit you down and say, here, press play, watch this, and they would kind of stand in the wings and wait until you finish watching it and be available to answer any questions that you've got. If you were to carry on your journey in Scientology, they would probably get you to do a personality test. I'm not actually sure where they would put you for this now, because the area they used to do that has now been boarded up and is the Celebrity Centre reception, but it used to be on the right hand side of where this sort of screen is here. You would turn right and it's sort of down a corridor. but I'm sure they'd find somewhere for it. You would do your personality test, you would get your results, and then you would be routed onto course. So they would find a course that is relevant for you based on the results of your personality test. And then you would spend the majority of your early days here in the course room. So this is where I started my Scientology journey. This is the public course room, which is where you would do your success through communication course, or your personal efficiency course, or whatever life improvement course it is that you start your journey on. Even if it's just a book course, this is where you would have one, sometimes two course supervisors looking after all of you guys are doing your studies there. Behind this is another room which is meant to be used for life improvement courses, and there's another one on the right which is meant for seminars. There's all these dedicated spaces throughout the church that are meant to be used for certain delivery of certain courses, but there were never enough people to fill those rooms. They're empty most of the time. On the right hand side here, there's sort of this pathway goes around to the right. There's a hallway, and behind this is actually where my office was. The office was probably about the same size of this course room, maybe a little bit bigger, which is meant for the entire of Division 6A, which pretty much was just me. I had one person who was in charge of Division 6A, and then there was someone in charge of all of Division 6A, B, and C, who were there as well, but they were mostly based over at Tottenham Court Road or somewhere else, out doing things, selling books, etc. So a lot of the time had a room this sort of size to myself, which is quite fun. All right, next one. This is the cafe. So this is where you would come on your lunch break, or where you would go if you have a 10-minute break during your day and you want to grab a snack, whatever it is. This is where you would go. It's in the underground part of the building, and you can see it's very, very beautiful. It's a nice little space. It's tiny. This picture makes it look a lot bigger than it is. But it's never staffed. We never had enough staff members to actually man it like an actual cafe. So whatever was on the shelves, whether it be, a packet of crisps or chocolate or whatever it is, you would just take it and put the money in a little donation tin. There was a little tray where you would say, look, put the money in here. No one would ever check whether you've paid the right or incorrect amount. There was never any staff there to do anything for you like service. So it's kind of like a self-catered cafe. But yeah, there's not a great deal of people walking in and out of this room anyway, so it's not like people are going to be stealing or anything like that, because they're all Scientologists and therefore ethically the best people in the planet, apparently. This is the chapel, which is where we had our sort of public events. That big sort of, you can see the lectern at the front, we can move that, and where the big Scientology cross, those are panels that you can move, and behind that is a big projector screen. So this is where we would have our staff movie nights when we would do those sorts of things. We were upstat, which happened quite a lot. We would have a night after Thursday or whatever where we'd all get together here and watch a film. We'd also have public events, so when the International Association of Scientologists, the IAS, when that event happened, we'd screen it for all the public here. This is how it was normally set up, and it was filled up only on a handful of times from memory. When we released the Superpower Building and Golden Age of Tech 2, this room was packed to the brim with Scientologists, and there were people standing up on all along the sides and at the back because it was such a big monumental moment in Scientology history. But other than that, the majority of times this building or this room was filled up with only 5 or 10 people. This is one of those spaces I talked about earlier that's dedicated to do life improvement courses, but it's never used. This course room was empty all the time. It was never used just because there weren't enough students on different types of courses to warrant having a dedicated space just for the life improvement courses. You got to remember the building is refurbed and designed for expansion in mind. So the idea is that there's all these spaces so that when there's so many people doing Scientology, they don't have to worry about refurbing and expanding and all of this. They've already got the space to do it. So therefore, when the course room that I showed you earlier is filled up and there's not enough space, they can then start delivering life improvement courses in this course room, which then frees up space in the other course room. So, I mean, it's good design thinking. It makes you think for longevity. It makes you think ahead of time so that you're not, clamoring around for space when you get really busy. Unfortunately, it just never got that busy. So the majority of these spaces are and were and still are empty the majority of the time. This is a similar sort of space. This is the bookstore, which is next to the library. This sort of area is just filled with every L. Ron Hubbard book and lecture you could think of. Again, there's all these sort of reception desks you see that there were never any staff there. There was never someone sat there to welcome you to sell books because no one really ever went here. Because all the students had already bought all of their books and their packs and everything else that they needed for their course. The only time you would generally ever go to this level is if you had finished a course and you're being routed onto your next one and you would need to go and buy the course back for the next course you're doing. You would come down here and, you would buy the course pack. But there's no one sort of stationed here permanently to sell the books or to register you onto the next course. This is just where you would do it. The person who is selling you the course is probably someone who has 3 or 4 other jobs within the church. This is the Purif Center. So one of the first major actions you do in Scientology on the bridge is the purification rundown, which is where you spend hours and hours a day in a sauna. You take ridiculous amounts of vitamins and niacin, and you do lots of running on the running machines, and it's meant to sort of detox your body from all harmful chemicals and toxins that have built up in your body over your life, and you're meant to sweat them out with the help of niacin. So this is where the Purif is done. You don't actually get to see the sauna in these pictures publicly available, but I'll see if I can get one somewhere. But it was always one of the coolest places in the building, just to walk past and see, because it was always quite warm. It felt like a gym. Everyone was kind of, a bit friendly in this sort of area. But there was always 1 or 2 people in the Purif at any one time. I don't ever remember there being no one on the Purif when I was there. So it was always fairly busy. This is the HGC, or the Hubbard Guidance Center. This is where auditing happened. So if you were to receive any auditing, this is where you would come, and this is the reception area. So you would come out. The lifts are just here on the right hand side, just before this auditing room's quiet sign. You'd come out of this doorway here, and you would sit down at this sofa and wait for your auditor to come and grab you, and then you would go into your session in one of the auditing rooms, which looks just like this. This is a very typical standard auditing room in the Church of Scientology in London. There are policies at the that exist about how an auditing room should be laid out and the way things are meant to look. There always has to be a window. The auditor always has to sit in front of the door, and a few other things like this. So we'll go over that at a later stage, but this is a typical auditing room at London Org. Also interesting, they've got the new e-meter. So this is the new e-meter that was released when I was on staff, which we will cover again in another video. But it's interesting that they've taken a whole new picture of the auditing room just to show the new e-meter in place from their website. This is the academy. So this is where the not upper levels of Scientology, but where the more advanced courses are delivered in the org. So this is where the TRs and objectives are done, which is one of the first things you do after your Purif. And also any sort of, if you're learning to become an auditor or anything like that, this is where you do your training. This is where I did my staff status courses. So when you become a staff member, you do 3 courses: staff status 0, staff status 1, and staff status 2. Staff status 0 is just getting to sort of know the building and get to grips with who's who and where all the rooms are. Staff status 1 is sort of an introduction to Scientology and the way orgs work, and staff status 2 is a bit more in depth in terms of ethics and you know, how your post and what you're meant to be doing, and then you do your hatting, where you start learning about how to actually do your job in the org. So this is where I did all of those sorts of things, and this is on the very top level of the building. It was actually quite a nice place to hang out, to be honest. Very light, very airy, and everyone was always really nice and tried to help you as much as possible. We talk a lot about dictionaries and word clearing in Scientology. All of these here are dictionaries, just to give you an idea of how important dictionaries are in Scientology and misunderstood words. So all of these bookshelves here are all different types of dictionary that were used by Scientologists in their studies. And last but not least, this is the L. Ron Hubbard office. So every Scientologist will tell you in the public way that this is just here as a shrine, as a memento, just to kind of say, you know, a nod to L. Ron Hubbard, the founder of Scientology, as a kind of a living memory, if you like, of who he is and where he came from. And so therefore in every Scientology org we keep an office for L. Ron Hubbard, always clean, always there, almost like a little memorial, I suppose, to L. Ron Hubbard. Unfortunately, the reality of the situation is, when you which you learn later on in your Scientology journey, no, the belief is L. Ron Hubbard will come back one day, and he will need a space to work in every single org, because when he comes back, he needs an office so that he can walk into any org at any time and pick up where he left off and carry on running Scientology. So that's why there's an office in the London Church of Scientology for L. Ron Hubbard. It's so that when he comes back, he can carry on doing what he was doing in the 1980s and carry on running and expanding Scientology. So that's why that exists in reality. Anyway, thank you so much, guys, for tuning in. Sorry this one was a bit longer, but hopefully see you guys on the next one.